Welcome to Visible with Usama Khan, an AI SEO strategist for B2B companies. Today I'm joined by Junaid from Breaking B2B, and we are talking about how AI is changing the SEO landscape. Let's get into it. Junaid, before we dive in, can you tell the audience a bit about yourself, what you do at Breaking B2B?
Yeah, and before that, thank you for inviting me on this talk. This is actually my first talk like this, and I can't express how honored I am. I still consider myself very
Also,
new
my
to this
first
field.
podcast, Junaid.
No worries. Yeah, hopefully I'll be able to. Hopefully I don't disappoint you and your
No
audience.
worries, man.
Yeah, so like Osama said, I'm an organic strategist at Breaking B2B. We do SEO, AI search, content for B2B SaaS brands across the world. A brief intro would be that I have been in this field for almost the last 4 years. I actually never planned on getting into digital marketing. I always thought of myself as someone meant for the FMCG industry. A lot of my peers in the university where I came from, we had discussed about breaking into multinationals, P&G, Unilever, those type of companies. This part was something that I never thought about. Being a remote strategist, living in a different country, working for clients across the globe. I got my big break into SEO when I graduated. A month after I graduated, I landed a digital marketing role in 2022. That role was a bit more um, it was more than just an SEO role, right? It encompassed everything from content to paid to GTM, product strategy. That role gradually shifted towards SEO, where I found my true calling. And then from that point on, I was like, this is something that I want to invest myself fully. So I fully invested myself into this space, learn new things, patterns, experimented, had a few failures. I left that job towards the end of 2024, did some job hopping in the next few months of 2025, started working remotely properly since June of 2025, started in the local SEO space, doing SEO for law firms in the US. And yeah, joined Breaking B2B in January of this year. It's been 5 months now, and it has been the most fast-paced role of my life. Being able to interact with clients across the globe while doing SEO, managing writers, a team of link builders. Yeah, it's been hectic. It's been amazing.
Amazing story, man. So, how did you find that shift from doing SEO for law firms and then doing it just for SaaS firms? Did you notice anything different in terms of priorities for getting results for these type of both of these industries?
For sure, the biggest difference is the local aspect, right? With local SEO, there's this whole element of map packs, getting visibility in those map packs because that is going to be your primary discovery surface. Optimizing for that surface, getting reviews, how you get those reviews, the sentiment those reviews exhibit, whether those are positive, recency, getting them flowing consistently, getting mentioned in local citations, publications, over as a whole, that is the main strategies shift, right? And then there are the different tactics of optimizing for local SEO, creating location-specific landing pages, again, citations in different local online directories. I think that was the main aspect that was different in that job compared to now. A lot of the basics are still there, right? Having a focus on the terms and keywords that your ICPs are searching, what drives their pain points, how to position them against the competitors, doing that research, translating that research into the website, creating the relevant content pieces. A lot of that is the same. With B2B, I would say that it is not more competitive, but it's more fast-paced, right? There is a lot of focus on AI right now. A lot of B2B clients are asking about AI. A lot of them are using AI. But that's another aspect that's been very different from how law firms do their SEO, do their marketing versus how a B2B company is doing their marketing.
Right, makes a lot of sense, man. And when exactly did you see AI search actually showing up in your client conversations? Because you just mentioned it. Was there a moment where you realized, okay, this isn't just hype anymore? This is something that we need to strategize for going forward?
It was definitely right around when AI overviews started rolling out globally, towards the end of 2024, early 2025, where we started seeing those declines in traffic. Everyone started wondering why those are happening. Execs began to dig in and see that there's this new search feature that's popping up on Google that's taking up a lot of space, eating the traffic share. That's when I started seeing these discussions around what is these AI overviews. They had a different name back then before they became AI overviews. And then that slowly shifted from AI overviews to the wider AI ecosystem. Are we showing up in ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity? If not, why aren't we showing up? Then also we started seeing the rise of these AI visibility tools uh, in 2025, and it's been picking up from there.
Yeah, exactly. That's usually the first thing I hear as well about what should we be doing to make sure that we're showing up in LLMs like ChatGPT and Claude, and also a lot of these marketing leaders and CEOs getting sort of very worried when they don't see their brand coming up. Recently, I just started working with a SaaS company, and I told them, okay, this is the strategy we need to do. And after a couple of days, the CEO messages me on Slack. I just search for this and that, and I don't see myself in Claude. So there's obviously a lot of tension around there, and they want to make sure they're showing up for relevant prompts. My next
Agreed.
question for yeah, my next question for you would be that has AI changed how your team does keyword research for these SaaS companies and deciding what content to create for these clients?
On a wider note, I would say that personally, it hasn't changed how I approach keyword research. So from a long time, I've always focused on trying to find out what the customer wants, right? I've always been a big fan of doing customer research, finding out what their pain points are in their words, how they're describing a product, competitors, and then basing off keyword research based on that. So instead of focusing on these SEO tools or even AI volume tools to show me search volumes for keyword research, I've always tried to focus on the customer first. But that isn't always possible, right? So we default to the next best thing. And in that sense, it becomes a process of combining data from different sources. Of course, we have traditional tools, SEMrush, Ahrefs, and then maybe using an AI tool to see how many searches for a term are there for that specific platform, and then just using a combination of that with their GSE, GA4 data to see what pages are getting traffic, what isn't. The best thing I find about GSE is that it shows all of the different keywords that led to impression or click. You get a lot of insights into new keyword opportunities there. Personally, if you give me a website and said do some keyword research on it in this era, in this AI era, my first response would be to get me your customer data.
Perfect. No, that makes a lot of sense. You did mention that obviously your first step is to really get to know your customer. So, what process do you exactly follow for that? Do you analyze sales call recordings, demo calls, that sort of stuff as well?
Definitely. Yeah. Um, and with Claude and other tools, that process has become so much easier, right?
So
You
much easier.
just grab a sales transcript, plug it into a tool, grab multiple, even Google's own tools, Notebook LM, yeah, a great source for
Yeah.
feeding it data and extracting information from it. That's one thing that I love about AI. It
Yeah.
has made these analysis so much faster, so much easier.
Boring stuff has become so much easier. Like, for example, if you were to extract pain point themes from all of the sales calls, you would have to just listen to them. And these are usually for B2B SaaS 50 minutes, 40 minutes, or even more than an hour sometimes. And you have to watch them through, make
Definitely.
your notes, and then see what patterns come up. Now you can just dump transcripts into Claude and just tell it to extract all the objections that come up, what sort of language are buyers using, and what sort of competitors come up. Very helpful.
Exactly. Yeah. Like you said, a lot of complexity in this space. Some vendors that we're working with operate in really complex spaces, deal cycles taking 6 to 12 months, very complex products. AI really helps in these tasks, man, compared to some of the other tasks where they're using AI to automate your entire um, content process, writing AI slop. Yeah, these use cases are definitely something that should be getting more attention. And they are. I'm seeing this positive trend with a lot of our clients. Even before we ask them for analysis of sales call transcripts, they're telling us we already have this cloud project set up. It has all of our internal
Yeah.
data, and we can give you access and you can just fetch from it. And that makes our job even more easier.
Nice. That's a wonderful insight. So we have seen that obviously AI overviews and even LLM search is eating into traffic as well as clicks. So what type of content specifically have you seen when analyzing your client accounts that have taken the hardest hit?
It would definitely be informational content, basic definitions, what it is, benefits of this particular thing, use cases of this particular thing, your typical top of the funnel informational stuff.
Yeah, because obviously when people go and look for these top of funnel topics to get their questions answered, LLMs just simply answer them, right? They are not citing anything, not recommending anything. But
Exactly.
yeah, and compare that with, let's say, best project management tools for SMBs. That is obviously a bottom of funnel query, and it will recommend the brands and cite different resources as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Has yeah.
Yeah, I was
Has
just
this
saying
been
that.
easier? Has this been easier to explain to your clients, by the way? Because they obviously see the graph go down and they get worried. Have they been understanding of what is actually happening now?
Yeah, some do, some understand. Sometimes it's not that easy. You really have to show them, you really have to remind them to focus on the bottom line, right? So you have to show them the data that matters, right? How are the conversions going? What is their MQLs? What are the MQLs like? Have the conversions dipped or not? So for a lot of clients, during this period, while their traffic fell, I actually saw a large rise in conversions, and not just conversions, closed deals. So it's all about perspective, showing them the right data, and then, yeah, I mean, there's only so much that we can do,
Yeah.
right? In terms of convincing them, the best we can do as strategists is to just show them. the right data, and then fingers crossed.
Yeah, as an SEO team, it's also really important to have that North Star metric. And for me, it's always been demos booked, conversions, right? So if you are looking at things very holistically, if those things are moving up in the right direction, then I think the argument becomes very easy to explain to these stakeholders as well.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Right. I just shared something last night on LinkedIn. We have this programmatic advertising clients. They are seeing a drop in traffic over the last few months, but their conversions are up. Um, One of the law firms that I worked with, they had consistent drops in traffic, but they had their best year in terms of conversion since 2020, right? So even though traffic is down, conversions are increasing if you invest in the right content. So yeah, all about perspective.
Exactly. And how are you currently tracking AI visibility? Do you have any process for that? Any tools you are using?
I would be disappointing a lot of people with my response, but we are using primarily GA4
Okay.
and and an AI visibility tool, but it's mostly GA4. We With AI, we sort of take it in this way that the prompts that we track and everything, share of citations, these are directional. They don't constitute, what would you say, a fixed truth, right?
Yeah.
Because AI responses are dynamic. They can be very prone to personalization. So, and different people searching from different places will get different results. Even the same person searching the same prompt
So,
twice
hmm,
in
yeah.
an hour might see different things. So we track traffic from AI sources from GA4. We also have some visibility through an AI tool that we're using. Something that I would like to look into more within this AI visibility space is analyzing log files. Those are a really cool source of information, AI traffic, but it's something that I'm still getting into. Getting that data can be a bit tricky, and analyzing that is something that I'm trying to improve on.
No, you are absolutely right about the fact that these responses are very sort of custom to the person prompting it. And another issue I've seen, in fact, there was very recent research, I think, by PKI or any sort. I just don't want to make names just to make sure that uh, to sort of attribute wrong research with another company. But the thing is that people are not looking or searching something in LLMs like what is the best project management tool. It's more like we are a company of, let's say, 20 people. We work in this industry, and this is the problem that we are currently solving or currently facing. This is the software we are using. It doesn't have this feature we need. Can you recommend some software that could potentially solve this use case? So they are very detailed, and ultimately that is what results in very custom responses. And you can't just track that with simple like prompt tracking that a lot of these software allows you to do. So you're absolutely right about that.
Yeah, and there's also been posts on some of these prompts seeping into GSC data.
Yeah,
Some
yeah.
of these prompts you can see with regex, but then there's another camp that says that a lot of these prompts are actually synthetic, which is made up by AI search tools during their scraping. So a lot of different viewpoints out there. There's a lot of noise.
Exactly, exactly. Do you think that big brands in their specific industries have an unfair advantage in AI search? Because when you prompt, let's say, very different queries, if they are broadly in the same category, you will always see those brands come up. For example, let's say for project management, it could be Asana or it could be Salesforce for their specific category.
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say that that is slightly beyond the scope that I have personally worked at because I have yet to work in a niche that was as crowded and as dominant as project management software. But thinking about it from a purely theoretical standpoint, a larger brand would have a bigger footprint across Google, more mentions on third-party websites, not necessarily the best content in terms of SEO. So I've yet to see a case study on it or anything personally that a small brand has been a bigger brand in terms of AI search. But I think it is doable. Um, it would depend upon how saturated the industry is, what are the main factors that specific AI algorithm is using to weigh its responses. Is it more on-page content? Is it
Yeah,
more mentions across the industry or anything else? So
makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. So now that top of funnel is dead or supposedly dead, that's what people are saying. Would you do you is your focus just on bottom of funnel content for your SaaS companies, or is bottom of funnel content where you start, but eventually you also move up the funnel?
yeah, in the long run, the focus is, of course, on capturing the entire sort of say universe of related keywords that are important to the website. For me, the priority is always capturing the audience that are in market for a software, and that usually translates to bottom of the funnel queries, right? So starting with a focus on commercial queries, whatever it is that an ICP is searching when they're close to converting, when they're close to buying a software, what are their pain points, what are they searching for when they're looking to switch a vendor, commercial queries, and then once we exhaust the existing demand for a product, then start focusing on building up demand, right? Then you can start with top of the funnel content, um, calculators, and really any other marketing program that helps build up that audience for the future.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. So, with bottom of funnel content, obviously, you mentioned that product knowledge is very important, the specific features, what benefits they provide. So, how, what's your process or approach to writing really quality bottom of funnel content that resonates with your target audience? And it's not something that's already out there in the SERP and just rewriting what's already out there.
Yeah, great question again. I try to focus on weaving as much unique information in the content and trying to make it as useful as possible, right? So I'm being a searcher myself, someone who searches daily. I hate it when pages are thousands of words long with information very deep within. I try to
And when they
convey
start with
information.
in the world of,
Yes, yes. As
typical
soon as
AI.
yeah, typical AI, as soon as I read it and I'm like, bro. And I see that content even on major SEO, GEO agencies trying to proclaim
Yeah.
themselves as bringing something unique to the table. But yeah, I try to focus on delivering value as soon as possible, right? So yeah, that typically is trying to make sure that the page is of high quality, right? The basics loads extremely fast, text doesn't shift much, there isn't any big element that is blocking the viewport, no intrusive interstitials, no sudden banner pop-ins. Um, Delivering as much information as possible in the first fold, plenty of CTA, tags, buttons that can take the user to different sections of the web page just so they can consume that information more quickly. and then making sure everything is readable, right? Everything is spaced out properly, using tables. Those are all little tactics, right? And they change with each page type. But
Yeah.
if I had to, yeah, condense this into a strategy, it would be delivering all the information that a particular person wants from a page as quickly as possible.
Yeah, makes sense. All of these things add up to really make sure your content stands out and really fulfilling the search intent that the reader is coming up with. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So, one last question for you, Junaid, for today is that if a B2B SaaS company came to you today with zero AI search visibility, what are some factors that you would consider before shaping up a strategy for them?
That's a really thought-provoking question. Zero AI visibility. I would I would ask them about their priorities. How much time do they have? How much budget can they afford to spend on building up an organic presence that also translates into AI visibility? What their competitive space is like? How much visibility do their competitors have? How much resources do they have apart from money and time into investing this? Because it it's not an easy task, right? With some companies, I've been seeing some success where they come in with almost zero content apart from landing pages. They can write a few commercial they can write on a few commercial topics and they can see visibility within 1 to 2 months. For some, it takes longer. It can take 10 months. So it would really depend upon that specific business. I mean, for some, I might even say that AI visibility is not your primary focus, right? Especially for new businesses that are still just setting up, making sure their product is a right fit with the audience, making sure they have their competitors, their target market, all of that information correct. And one of my earbuds just fell down, so yeah, never
Oh,
mind that. Yeah, so it would depend. It would depend. Yeah, I hate to say it, but just like every SEO, I'd say it depends.
yeah, that's, I think, appropriate answer for most of these things. Unless you have a very in-depth understanding of what actually is that they are wanting, and you look at things from a holistic perspective, that is the only way you are going to really build up a solid strategy for them with realistic expectations. Thank you so much for joining today, Junaid. That's a wrap on this episode of Visible with Usama Khan. And if viewers, you guys found this useful, subscribe on YouTube, and I'll see you on the next one.
Thank you, Sama. Thank you for giving me my first chance to discuss SEO in a podcast and to dress up a bit. Yeah.
This was
Thanks.
wonderful, man. Also, my first podcast. Hopefully,
You
many
were
more to
great.
come.
You were great, man.
Thank you.
And all the best with the rest of them.
Thank you so much, man. Thanks again for joining. This was wonderful.
Yeah. Bye-bye.